Morning, everyone. I just call this meeting to order this morning. I'm Deputy Mayor Joan Stoller. I'm in for Mayor Noble, who is scheduled time off today. He may appear later on in the meeting. I'd like to introduce Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Booth, Councillor Ainsworth, our Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Collison, Madam Clerk. We have our planner, Tracy, good morning. We have our planning assistant, good morning, Alex. Our deputy clerk, good morning, Linda.
Good morning.
We do have quorum, so we'll begin the meeting. And good morning to members of the Gallery. I'd like to start off today with the land acknowledgement, the territorial land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the township of Alma is located on the Mississauga and Anishinaabe territory and is a traditional territory of Mississauga and Anishinaabe. The township of Alma respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. We'll now move on to the approval of the agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda. That the Council of the Corporation, the Township of Alma enacts as follows. That the agenda for the Municipal Planning Regular Council meeting held on May 28th, 2024 be approved. May I have a first and a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Thank you, Councillor Ainsworth. All in favor? That's carried. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of minutes. Motion to adopt the council minutes of May 24th. It's recommended that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Alma enacts as follows. That the minutes of the regular council meeting held on May 14th, 2024 be adopted. May I have a first and seconder to come on the table, please? Or on the floor. Thank you, Councillor Ainsworth. Thank you, Councillor Booth. And that will be all in favor. Thank you. Moving to 6.1, correspondence from, I should go back to number 6. This is arising from previous minutes. Does anyone have any concerns or issues they'd like to bring forward from those minutes? Seeing none, it will be adopted. Let's move on to correspondence from St. Andrew's United Church. And it has to do with requests to fly the pride flag during the month of June. It is recommended that the Council of the Corporation, the Township of Alma enacts as follows. That the council receives the report, because we don't have a report there. Okay. Can I have a first and second for that, please? Okay. Well, you'd like to read it off. That so the full motion is that the community flag will be installed at the Grafton Municipal Office outside of the Emma House for the flying of the township flag and any third-party flags approved by council, and that the pride flag be flown at the Grafton Municipal Office for the month of June 2024, and that staff bring forward to a future council meeting a flagpole policy to govern the flying of the flags at the municipal offices. Have a first and second, please. Thank you, Councillor Booth. I need a second for that. Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Booth.
Yes, thank you, through your worship. I guess I'm a little confused. It looks like here that we want to install a third flagpole here. So we have two right now, right up front, one that flies the Canadian flag and one that flies the provincial one. I'm just wondering how many requests we had in the past from different groups to fly a flag. I only recall maybe a few of them. I don't think it's that many, so I'm not in favor of spending 1,500 plus taxes, so $2,000 for another flagpole. I'm wondering, I don't think you can put another flag under the Canadian flag, but I believe you can put one under the provincial one, or could we not just remove the provincial flag and have pride flag, or whether it's the Albertville flag that flies and things like that. I think there's only a couple of times a year, so I wouldn't be in favor of purchasing another flagpole. And I guess the other question would be, I have an issue with trying to fly a flag for the whole month, because I looked it up. I think this month coming up, there's a few different things. So I guess maybe that would be addressed, Emily, to you in the flag policy, that if you have different groups that want to fly it for the whole month, what do you do?
Could you add some more information for
So through you, Deputy Mayor, yes, the flight policy that we bring in forward would set out timelines. So in the absence of formal policy right now, the recommendation is to apply for the month, because we don't have any, we don't have any other requests at this time. So there's staff seeing that team and they should find it for the entire month.
And I guess one other, so I did a little bit of research last night, and I'm just wondering who supplies the flag. So pride flag, is that going to be supplied by the church? Because most of the flag policies I've looked at for municipalities is when it's a request, that group supply the flag, we will fly it, and then we give the flag back to them. Because if you get dozens of groups requesting the flag to fly, and depending if they just want it here, there's fire halls and community centers that have it. We could be, $300-400 for flags for each group. Are they going to supply the flag, or are we supplying it to you?
Could you add some more information to that? Thank you.
Sure. So that would be a discussion of council and staff, certainly the third party organizations for specialty flags. That's also why we installing a single flag here at Grafton office very cool, because it would save us having to then send staff around to all of the facilities that we have, so that becomes a dedicated community flag pole to show these any support that council would need. And in the absence of any flag requests at that point, it would be the township flag that's flying, which is missing from our facility at this present moment. We are not certain lines, so if all the cities and lines for 7 days that councils obviously committed to that, so we're going to have those rights, those rights. But depending on what the is, if it's the location or it's a national wide celebration. So for instance, pride is year over year, it's a national funds that we don't have to keep in stock for any special 1 week special request for support from local organizations that find their organizational flag. Those would be the ones that have to be supplied.
Could I just ask for, Councilor Booth has asked about having it flown, and I was just wondering, I know you did mention it in the policy about installing the third flag pole. I just why you wanted a third pole. Would that just be to designate, so we would have the federal, the provincial, and then third flag pole would be for flags, so to speak, for this one, so those flags would only fly for those purposes. Is that how you were thinking?
Yes, that's correct. So we'd be looking at having that standalone third flagpole in front over by the Millville, in front of the White House attached directly to us. That location it works in terms of the property, but it's also standalone, so it does serve as a the focal point. So in the absence again of any third-party request for certain flags or cause flags to be flown, it would be the township's municipal flag that would be flown on that pole. So they're on the third one, and then the township flag would be the one that's.
Does that clarify questions for you? Also in the, oh, go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah, to you, Deputy Mayor. I also, really not in favor of spending that money without this way, and I'm wondering if we can do something on like a temporary pole basis, or can we find maps like that would fit on, you know, the front of the animal building or something that we could use with a much smaller scale as far as, into 1,500 on the pole, following that. And, I'm also kind of wondering about the timelines also, to give everybody a month. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what the policy's gonna be when we put together. So, I would be in favor of something of a smaller scale that instead of the $1,500, that maybe a pedestal one or something that would mount on the side of the building.
I guess, in thinking about that, I don't think it would be, as far as $1,500 for flagpole doesn't seem to be out of the question, whereas it's beginning into mounts and all that, I think it's being about the same amount of money.
So it's not something that we did research in terms of costings, but in terms of ease of use for staff, it's much easier to go lower and heights based on the cover as opposed to trying to get ladders in an angle and just do it side.
And as far as having it for the whole month, it's just in the absence of the flagpole policy. So once that gets in place, that will dictate how long we fly these flags.
That's correct. So the request from the church was to fly it for the month of June, so that's why staff have gone with the 1 month request this time, just based on the request. Again, the timeline would be something that would be brought up in that policy.
Any other discussion? I would like to, would this be the time to just invite Kathy Lloyd to this instrumental and just saying a quick thank you to council. This you come forward, Ms. Waits.
Well, on behalf of St. Andrew's United Church and the Social Justice Committee and the community, I thank you for agreeing to fly the pride flag. I know it's a bit difficult to figure out how to do it, and I appreciate that you're all working on that. But it certainly will demonstrate what an open and progressive community we are. And flying that flag is stating that everyone is welcome here. So small town pride, I think we should be congratulated. You should be congratulated.
Thank you for your kind words. That's right. So then, are we see a few little objections? Are you okay as this stands now? That's where I put the poll. Thank you. That's where you're not okay. So we will take a vote on this then.
So the Mayor, so the motion on the floor right now is that the community flag will be installed, that the flag be flown for the month of June, and that's factoring forward so the tree part, and that's factoring forward the flag policy. So if there is objections to the installation of the flag pole, you'd be looking for a motion to amend that.
Go ahead, Councilor Booth.
The council may sort of will accept an amendment that the purchase of the flagpole, $1,500 flagpole is enough. I don't see why we can't fly the pride flag or any other flag on the second floor that we have here. We have two already. I have no objection to the flag flying, but I just think, you know, $1,500 plus taxes, so you're looking at $2,000 to put another flagpole up there for a couple of requests a year. We have two out here right now, right behind me, so I can't see why the provincial one can't come down and we can just put it up there. And I guess my other concern is, what the clerk said is, I think that if third parties are asking us to fly the flag, then the flag should be provided to us. We should not be purchasing. whether or not it's an annual thing or not, I'm sorry, but I don't think the taxpayer should be paying for somebody else's flag. I don't think that's much to ask a group if they want to use our flagpole, that's fine, but they can purchase the flag, because I'm sure that they've got to be $50 or more for a good quality flag.
It's the only difference that I see is the wording that you used as national. This is a national, flag sort of thing, is that correct?
So I would recommend that we hold any conversation with the flag policy until we get one forward. So right now, let's deal with the issue of installation. Those three so certain elements.
So,
I would agree with that.
and, that would be that the flag flies for the month of June.
On the whole, what we got.
And I guess one question I have is that something that is allowed, where you take down the provincial flag and put the other flag up? Is that something that is, could be approved to do that? Oh,
So if I'm understanding correctly, that's what there's a motion to amend the motion on the floor to remove the purchase of the flagpole.
And that and that the person or the group requesting the flag, supply the flag and will gladly flag. And if there's no issue with the clerk or anybody else, that nobody else has asked for their flag to fly for June, then I have no issue with it flying for the whole month until the flag protocol comes out of the policy. I don't think we have any other requests for June, Julie, no. No.
okay, so we have. Thanks, council. This is, we're only just getting started here. So, can you, just run that through again? So all run what we're doing here.
So we have a motion to amend. Flagpole not purchased and provincial. The existing provincials. And that, the flag to be supplied by third-party groups. Have that on. Motion to amend that the flag will not be purchased. Just like that instead of first, so we've got the mover, so there's a secondary.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councilor Ainsworth. All in favor? Are you sure we can?
So just a point of order, then, if we say no to the flagpole and then we've got our flag policy brought forward, and at that point it is determined that's the right move, would we be able to say do it now? Or does it mean we can't discuss it essentially for a year?
So the flag policy will take a look at the existing infrastructure we have, so we would also based on this decision. It's not for flag. So we would just at that point. Do what we do right now, which is just the provincial flag.
Good with that clarification. Councilor Lee. All in favor of not purchasing the third pole? Not the, I would rather see a third pole.
Who's attached? We have to ask that too.
Yeah, so the emotion, so the amendment, it's not. It's additional. Okay, so that.
At the, so do we have, I'll put the motion forward that the third pole be installed. All right. Okay, all in favor of installing the original motion? now to then action on that, and so now we just move into versus flooding.
So at this point, council made the decision that we. So with the. Downing. So at this point, the decision's been made, to not install the flag, well, to not fly the flag, start flags and, to not bring forward a flag policy. So that's where council made the decision. So at this point, that decision has been made, so we will move on to the next item.
I was, so that is, I was still thinking of the flag. I didn't realize it was not flying the flag. So what can we do about that?
So because we're at, the meeting, we have a moment to reconsider the two for vote. Yeah, back on the floor.
Can I get it back on the floor, please? This,
No, could I make a new motion that we, because right now, currently, if you have a third party flag, it flies in the pole behind you right now, provincial. So it's not to not fly it. If we bring this up in another month, then it's going to be too late for Friday. So I would make a motion that we use the provincial flag pole right now and fly the pride flag as long as the third party supplies us with the flag. We can fly it for the whole month. And then we'll wait until the future when the flag policy comes. That way, at least this group will get their flag flown. So we'll just follow exactly what we're doing now.
do we have a second for that? Thank you, Councilor Ainsworth. All in favor?
I have a question.
Okay.
Sorry. So now where are we on potential discussion of a third flag pole? Can that be part of the flag policy coming back or?
So at this point, council has made a decision that there will be no third flag installed. So at that point, we will be bringing forward a flag policy for the motion for which is at the flag pole. The pride flag will go on the provincial pole at the office, and the flag is supplied by group, and that flag policy be brought forward. So at that point, that's for the cover pole has been for the rest of this point in time, it's on the motion that.
Could it be included in the policy?
At this point, council's decision is to not install a third. Staff will be not recommending third going forward based on the decision taken.
It's, we do have a year to, bring this back. So I'll make a note on my agenda to bring that back in a year. So, all in favor of that then? Thank you. So we'll move on to number 7, delegations at this point. Now we will recess and move into the Land Division Committee of Adjustment. Recommended that the council attend to the following Alderman and that's as follows: that the council of the township of Alderman, being a land division committee of adjustment, move to the land division committee council adjustment on May 28, 2024 at 9:55. Have a mover and seconder for that, please. Thank you, Councilor Ainsworth. Thank you, Councilor Booth. Any discussions? All in favor? Carried. Committee of Adjustment Land Division to order. We have the same players in place. Thank you. The only difference is we have our planner in place. Thank you, Tracy. This, the meeting, we have quorum. And we will start this meeting at 9:56. I will read the territorial land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the township of Arnold Parliament is located on the Mississauga and Nishnawbe territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Nishnawbe. The township of Arnold Parliament respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and the caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. Now we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. It's recommended that the Committee of Adjustment, Land Division Committee of the Corporation of the Township of Arnold Parliament enacts as follows. That the agenda for the Committee of Adjustment Land Division Committee meeting held on May 28, 2024 be approved. That is moved from seconded. Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Thank you, Councilor Booth. All in favor? Carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we will continue on to the approval of the land division minutes of April 24th, 2024. It's recommended that the Committee of Adjustment Land Division Committee of the Corporation of the Township of Arnold Parliament enacts as follows. That the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment Land Division Committee meeting held on April 30th, 2024 be approved. Have a mover and seconder for that. Thank you, Councilor Ainsworth. Thank you, Councilor Booth. Is there any discussion? All in favor? That will be carried. Is there any business arising from those minutes that council would like to discuss? Seeing none, we will move on to 7.1. And this is a request for the cancellation certificate for Bernard Reinhardt. It's recommended that the Land Division Committee of Adjustment of the Corporation of Township of Arnold Parliament enacts as follows. That prior to the issuance of the certificate of cancellation, the applicant's lawyer submits a legal opinion verifying that the lands will merge on title with part of lot 26 of section 9, and that a certificate of cancellation be issued by the committee in relation to consent application B26/91, instrument number NC 205520, that pertains to part of the road allowance between concession 9 and concession 10, part of the road allowance between lot 26 and lot 27, concession 9, part lot 26, concession 9, part 1393740, the township of Arnold. Have a mover and seconder, please. Thank you, Councilor Ainsworth. Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Is there any discussion for that? All in favor? Thank you. Now we'll move on to the minor variances. We have minor variance application for Rolf and Karen Zurich.
Lakers,
Thank you. Might have you looking at that again.
Lakers,
Thank you. It's recommended that the Land Division Committee of Adjustment of the Corporation of the Township of Arnold Parliament enacts as follows. That application MB-01-2024 by Rolf and Karen Zeitkirsch for the property located at 362 7th Line Road, Unit 120, Sunset Bay Road, legally described as concession 7, part 21, 39R-7711, parts 1 and 2, Geographic Township of Onway is hereby approved to permit a reduced rear yard setback from 12 meters to 8.41 meters and an increased maximum lot coverage from 20% to 23%. Have a mover and seconder, please, for that. Thank you, Councillor Booth. Thank you, Councillor Ainsworth. Is there any discussion on this minor variance? Go ahead, Councillor Booth.
Could you please have the planner go through this? With us, it's fine.
Thank you.
I forgot that important part.
Missed it.
Oh, did you have something you'd like to add to that?
No, I could say it. I covered it, the report and
Yeah.
and
I think we've seen this, 7.1 we've seen before.
So for, the minor variance application by Ralph Karen Wicker and the O1 2024, they are recommending approval. If the application was before the Land Division Committee on February 26, 2024, which is the report is attached in attachment 1 to this current report. And it was decided at the time that it be deferred until we can bring forward more information. The variance proposed would permit the construction of a new seasonal dwelling, a cottage, to replace a failed structure that was demolished in 2021. The proposed footprint will maintain or improve the established interior side yard and front yard setback. And since the lot is on the water line, the rear yard is considered to abut the private road Sunset Bay. So the setback will improve the increased setback to the water by reducing the rear yard setback from 12 meters to 8.45 meters, and the lot coverage is supposed to slightly increase from 20 to 23%. At the time of the writing of the report, Northumberland County had initially requested deferral of the application, and through subsequent discussions with the applicant, the county had changed their position, noting that they can support class 5 holding tank rather than a class 4 septic. The applicant at the time had requested deferral at the February 26th meeting, just to give him additional opportunity to discuss the design of the septic designer to make sure there's no issues with the setback and the location of the system. So that I did contact the septic designer. She did confirm that the proposed design for the class 5 holding tank should not affect the requested variances. Therefore, we're recommending approval of the application.
Are there any questions? Councillor Miles. I have read the recommendation. We can read it again.
Sure, I think these guys, and sorry to interrupt, on the last report, we should probably verify that there was no.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak on the Bernard Reinhardt cancellation certificate? Thank you. Seeing none. Is there anyone here?
I'm not sure. Yolanda, is there anybody online?
We do have people online. I'm not sure if they're associated with this. I do have someone that does have their hand raised, a Melody.
Yeah, hi, hello.
I can't speak to them, so someone else will have to speak.
Good morning, I'm here to speak to the application.
Hi, hello. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Would you like to add any comments to this minor variance?
No, I'm just asking because the microphone is very terrible there from the internet side. Just we cannot really hear you guys very well, very clear.
But always not speaking for, it, but they can't hear us.
Okay, thank you. We will keep our voices up.
Yeah, just there's a lot of echoes, that's all.
Thank you. Would you like to come forward? Do you have any comments you would like to, this is the application.
No, I like to raise a piece on that.
See any questions for you, so we will go ahead and unless you didn't have anything you would like to add. Okay, thank you. It's recommended that the land division committee the adjustment of the corporation of town and all problem max as follows. That application MD -01-204 by Rolf and Karen Zirko. Whisper for a property located at 362 7th Line, we have 120 Sunset Bay Road, legally described as concession 7, part lot 21, 39R-77, part 22, geographic township of Only is hereby approved to permit a reduced rear yard setback from 12 meters to 8.41 meters and increase maximum lot coverage 20% to 20. That was the second of that. Thank you, Councilor Booth. Thank you, Councilor Ainsworth. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Recommend that we move the adjustment to the appropriate. And 10. Have a mover and second for that, please. Thank you, Councilor Booth. Thank you, Councilor Leon. All in favor? We'll move on to the public meeting part of the agenda. It's recommended that the council, the corporation of Sandy Babone Parliament enacts as follows. That the council move into a public meeting under section 3(4) of the Planning Act at 10:11 a.m. And then we can to, Tracy, thank you. Sorry, don't you want to get a little this one, you like it. I'll take it. Can I have a mover section for that, please? Thank you, Councilor Ainsworth. Thank you, Councilor. All in favor? Carried. Now, let's move the meeting over to Tracy. Thank you.
Chair, the zoning bylaw amendment, has been submitted for phase 2, Rice Lake Estate. That application that voted for 2024 on April 24th of this year, Stamp Power Building submitted the zoning bylaw amendment application for the phase 2 land in Rice Lake Estate. Review of the detailed design work and the draft of the subdivision agreement for phase 2. Related to draft approved plan subdivision 14B 95007 with the completion. Council of the Township of Alma had approved the zoning bylaw amendment application for the land through bylaw 9618 on December 19, 1996. This amendment was not carried forward into the Township of Alma's zoning bylaw 100/2010, approved on August 25th. 2010. Both phase 1 and phase 2 lands were placed in the rural zone at that time. The lands within the phase 1 draft approved plan of subdivision 14T 95007 were placed in a rural residential zone. When zoning bylaw 19/2019 was approved by council on November 28, 2019. The parent estate residential ER zones was not replicated in bylaw number 100/2010 or bylaw 19/2019. The rural residential zone was the most consistent updated zone to the estate residential number 1 zone from the 1996 amendment bylaw 9618. The phase 2 land have remained in the rural zone. This application applies to phase 2. The zoning bylaw amendment will implement draft approved plan subdivision 14T 95007 through this application for an appropriate rural residential zone and environmental protection zone. A total of 21 lots for single detached dwellings are proposed within the phase 2 of this development. Consistency with the provincial policy statement, conformity with the growth plans, Northumberland County official plan, and the Alma Policy official plan will be determined upon completion of review by the circulated requirements of the agency. Such a plans are zonable in the current zoning bylaw. The minimum lot area for this zone is 5 hectares, and the minimum lot frontage is 60 meters or 196.85 feet. The proposed lot areas range from 0.4 hectares, which is 0.99 acres, to 0.76 hectares or 1.87 acres, which is consistent with the rural residential zone. With the exception of lots 12 and 13, all lots have frontages that meet or exceed the minimum lot frontage of 45 meters or 147.6 feet required by the rural residential zone. Due to the location of lots 12 and 13 on the turning circle and adjacent to a wetland, an exception for lot frontage is needed. To conform with the policy requirement for the protection of natural heritage and hydrological features and the features of the vegetation protection zone within the local plan. Lands identified by an environmental impact study prepared by DM World Associates dated January 2024, and lands that were previously zoned recreational holding under the 96 bylaw. Those lands that have remained within the environmental constraint zoning are proposed to be placed in an environmental protection zone. Notice of the application was circulated to all all registered owners of land within 120 meters or 400 feet of the subject property on May the 8th, and signs were posted on parcels fronting Sheriff Point Road and Hampton Crescent. Since the writing of the report, we did have one inquiry requesting details on the proposal. Another resident inquired about the potential impacts on well. One works with commence and one grades of Hampton, what the grades of Hampton Crescent would be. Details on the hydrological assessment and road design were provided to the inquirer. Another resident contacted staff this morning with an email to provide comments. They suggested that the application is to increase the number of lots in the phase 2 development and asked for clarification. The purpose of the inquirer was advised that the purpose of the application was to correct the fact that the zoning hasn't been carried forward. There is a proposed increase in the lots through the plan subdivision application, which was draft approved and is finalized by the county staff. In the case, this resident has suggested that they disagree with the application to adjust the size of the originally approved lots for the phase 2 development. The development was approved and the lots were sold based on the fact that all the lots within the approved development would be a minimum of 1.5 acres, classified as a gate lot. They could here due to the fact that they wouldn't be in a normal urban size development and are confident that the neighbors would agree with their assessment. They suggested that the development has been in works for roughly 20 years, and during that time, the developer, they are concerned that the developer has not honored their responsibilities, and that summarizes their concerns. The purpose of this report is to introduce the zoning bylaw amendment. Comments from departments and agencies are expected and will be reviewed through a subsequent report. Should be noted that there was a typo in section 2 of the draft zoning bylaw contained in attachment 4. It references blocks 28 to 20 on plan 39 and 799. It should reference blocks 28 to 30, which are proposed to be known as environmental protection with previous approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are now going to move into a public meeting. Get public input. Is there anyone in the audience that would, or in the gallery, that would like to come forward and speak on this zoning bylaw amendment? Or is there anyone online that has anything they would like to add to this application?
They could raise their hand if
Could you raise your hand if you are wanting to speak on this? Seeing none. And this gentleman, this is the developer. Yes. Would you like to come forward, sir? And just, if we could just state your name, please.
My
Have a seat if you like.
name is Nick Stiles, and the owner of lands. Doesn't indicate.
I wonder if you can just keep your voice up. Thank you.
Sure, sorry. It's, my phone, not piece of public speaking.
Not any bizarre.
I just wanted to introduce myself. Also. We had these lands draft plan approved since 1996 and have been successful in phase 1. The phase 2 lands were actually deferred until more conditions were appropriate. I think there was a provision that we had to achieve a certain number of lot sales in phase 1 before we could proceed with phase 2. And that's been accomplished in the last 3-4 years. They asked for their indulgence and allowing us to extend the dock plan approval. We've done every 2 years since. We are in a position now to move. Those of this subdivision. We have. Those buildings. Already in place. In so doing, came across this minor issue, it's a major issue, but it seemed like the lands were down zoned through some sort of inadvertence, when we can, when the townships were amalgamated. There's simple action that we can go forward that to allow. Given certain questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to add to this? Seeing none, I'll move on. Oh,
I do have a Mark online that would like to speak. He's raised his hand.
okay, go ahead, Mark.
Hello there, everyone. I'm just wanted to say, so I'm a landowner adjacent to the proposed subdivision. It was very difficult to hear the developer. I didn't understand really anything that he said. I'm just wondering if there would be minutes that would be produced and if there's still an opportunity after this public meeting to provide feedback based on the minutes that would be produced.
Well, one thing that we do is put that on our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to listen to the meeting, and I'm sure that most of it would be spoke, it would come through. Go ahead, Tracy.
Yes, thank you. Mark, can you please provide your full name? And we will, members of the public have opportunity to provide oral or written submissions up until the decision is made. So if you would like to send an email, those comments will have to be addressed in the subsequent report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we'll get the.
Sorry, Mark, if you could please provide your name and for the record, please.
Yes, hi, it's Mark Clintworth here. I live at 138 Ingham Road or Ingham Lane.
Go ahead, Councillor Ainsworth.
Yeah, so you, Deputy Mayor, I just noticed that there's some existing houses that aren't part of the mapping on here, and I wonder if they're going to be there. So like there's steel on Parkview Drive and there's one at the north end of the Hampton Crescent. So they're not on this drawing, so are they going to be there or are they part of?
Go ahead, Tracy.
Through the chair, those lots are within the first phase. So they've already been zoned and are within a registered plan of subdivision. And I do see there's someone else wanting to speak. Thank you.
Go ahead, Melody.
Yeah, hi. We're also at the similar situation with Mark. Can we also get the copy of the information that's being shared in today's meeting?
So I'd ask you to provide your name, please.
Yeah, our name is first name is White again, last name is Chao, SHAO. Are we living at the 8089 Share Point?
Just like to add again that all minutes will be made public and will be posted as well. Go ahead, Tracy.
Yes, through the chair, in the notice that was sent to residents, there's instructions of how to request further notification. If you can send me an email with your contact information, we will add you to our interested parties list. Thank you.
I do have another person from the gallery as well wanting to speak.
Thank you. Go ahead. Tracy?
Hi, thank you. Yes, I just wanted to add my name to the list to be receiving the information. It's Tracy Rafferty, and I have property at 7402 SharePoint Road.
So we have contact information now. If you have anything to add on that, clerk.
For all of those, sort of thinking of you there, for all of those that are requesting additional information, please email the senior planner, Tracy Wester, directly. She'll have your contact details in that way, and we'll be able to get you on the circulation list. We do require that those emails be submitted, just that request, so again, we have accurate contact details. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any more?
I have one more, Michael.
Go ahead, Michael. Please provide your full name.
Hey there, my name is Michael Nasadrevsky at 230 Hampton Crescent. I'm also looking to get that information that you guys are mentioning and including the minutes because it was difficult to hear a number of things. But kind of the question is what's going to be going on with that Hampton Road and leading up to there during the rezoning of that municipality, or the subdivision.
Okay, Michael, did you hear that you can email your information to the planner and you'll be put on the list?
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Yeah, that was the first part of that question, but mainly just wondering about that road, what the deal is going to be over there.
Okay, thank you. We have your, if you can do that, we will have your contact information.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
So in terms of the road, that is the plan of subdivision, we'll need to enter into an agreement with the developer. There's detailed design for the reconstruction of Hampton Crescent for the park portions that are not within the phase one plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more confirmation or any more conversations through council members?
Yeah, it's going to come to me when he's done.
Thank you.
So the bylaw for this confirms to plan 49 and 799. I'm just wondering what the other numbers are for, or they already been done.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Through the chair, the other plan numbers would be referencing the legal description of the land. So there's a reference plan that would identify the blocks that make up the phase two land. The portion of the original subdivision that's referenced is the strip of land that's along the lake. When the zoning was carried forward, the environmental protection zoning did get carried forward as well. So it's appropriate to correct that through this application. Thank you.
Does that clarify anything for you, Councilor Ainsworth?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead, Councilor O'Neill.
I'm listening to these residents' questions, and I think it makes me think that when there was the original draft plan for subdivision back in 1996, there would have been public meetings and public input. Is there any other required public meetings as part of this process now? And I do have a follow-up question. We'll get that one.
Through the chair, the subdivision was approved in, I believe it was 1996. So there would have been a public process at that time. It's been in a state of draft approval then. Since then, and it's been extended a number of times. There's no public process requirement for the subdivision itself. There are some minor changes that have been made through detailed design work, and they have proposed an increase in the number of lots for 7 additional lots. And through discussions with the county staff and the planner, determined that that was a minor enough change that didn't warrant requiring a revision to the subdivision. So that does not require additional public consultation.
Go ahead, Councilor O'Neill.
And my follow-up question, I'm not sure who this is to, but I believe I heard something from the province saying that they're not going to allow this to happen, that it'd be only 3 years. Have we received anything about that?
That was within the, I think you're referring to the draft, those changes to the Planning Act through Bill 185. That hasn't been finalized, and I believe the date was prior to the date of this draft approved plan of subdivision. So I don't believe if that were to be approved, that this would be in effect. And the developer seems to be working diligently to wrap up the finalizing of the subdivision. So if it were to be registered, that would affect this development. That's why, thank you.
Questions from council? Thank you. We will now move on to a motion to begin to announce a meeting. I think this will get covered in the next. It's recommended council of the corporation and township of Honor Halden and enacts as follows. That council rise from a public meeting under section 34 of the Planning Act and reconvene to a municipal planning regular meeting of council at 10:33 a.m. on May 28, 2024. We have a mover and a seconder, please. Thank you, Councilor Booth. Thank you, Councilor Ainsworth. All in favor? Carried. Planning bylaws, seeing none. Planning department reports. The next one will move to 12.1. And that is the planning 2024-45 Johnson Septic Service Limited environmental compliance approval, May 28, 2024. It's recommended. Does staff have anything further they would like to add to this report?
Through the chair, I can provide a summary if you like.
Thank you.
So the site is located within Lockwood 132, concession 8, within the geographic township of Halden. It's at the northwest corner of 5 Road. On May 3rd, 2024, the MLE has submitted 2 requests for comment on applications for removal and disposal site environmental compliance approvals. There's 2 certificates that are requiring renewal for Johnson Septic Services Limited. Council previously supported renewals for ECA for the spreading of septic on fields located on Mission Road, west of Island Road. Through the review of our records, it was determined that the property was acquired by the owner in 1999. They have additional land located at 10226 Eagle Meadow Road to the west of such plans. Through review of a rezoning file for that site, I uncovered that the planner of the day in the 90s had determined that the spreading of the septic is considered agriculturally related and therefore it's a permitted use as the waste is used as a source of fertilizer and soil nutrient. So with that interpretation being applied to the subject plans, we are able to confirm to the MOE that the zoning permits agricultural use and that it's in conformity with the Oak Ridges Moraine zones on the property, and that the site is within a low aquifer vulnerability area and not within any of our wildlife protection zones. So based on that, there's no concerns from a zoning perspective for council supporting the renewal of those applications.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Go ahead, Councilor Ainsworth.
After you, Deputy Mayor. Excuse me. So when I read this, it looks like everything is okay. Tracy, we just have to take it off at the end for the Ministry of Environment. And have their approval.
Yeah, through the chair of the ministry has requested confirmation that the zoning permits the use. And because of the challenges I have in finding documentation, I want to make sure that there's a record of finding these, sure when subsequent renewals are required.
Any other questions? Thank you. I'm gonna go ahead, please.
Yeah, you definitely.
I wonder if I could just slow you down here for a second, because I need to get it on the floor.
Okay.
Can I have a move and second here for that, please? Thank you, Councilor Ainsworth. Thank you, Councilor Booth. All in favor for that?
No.
Well, just get on the floor. Any
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You got the. So I guess my concern too is that this is a way of life in rural areas, so is Mr. Johnson's okay to continue his services right now? We've got something set up for that until we get through the paperwork.
I can't speak for the MRE requirements, the Johnsons are here, and I'm sure if you want to direct questions to them, they would be able to come and answer questions. Yes. We're no longer meeting at this point, so it's just
I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, we just need to back you up. Thanks. Go ahead, Councilor Booth.
I'd like to make a motion to allow Mr. Johnson to make a comment if he wants.
Thanks. Thank you, Councilor Ainsworth. All in favor? And I'd like to thank Councilor for the extra help today. Come ahead, Mr. Johnson, and who do you have with you? Hi, Kelly. Run and show your paperwork.
Sorry, we'll need someone to talk.
Hello, so just to answer your questions, we do have a currently to continue spreading, septic on the lands as per the Ministry of Environment. That permission, but this is for the renewal, so we're allowed to currently until this new PCA comes in.
I guess when is the license for the?
Currently, so. Sorry, I don't know.
Oh, well, you said this is a renewal, so when does the license stop? You need to, are you ahead of time, or do you need 4 or 5 months before you're at the deadline for the new application to be accepted?
See, it is in June. December 1st.
Oh, okay, so but you're still being elected.
So, yeah, somehow their application got lost.
Maybe 500. Okay. Do you have anything else to add that you'd like council to know about? Oh, Councilor O'Neill, or sorry, Councilor Booth, go ahead.
Just a question, Mr. Johnson. So when you say it gets renewed, how long does it get renewed for? Is it 5 year, 10 year?
It's been 3 years, it's been 3 years, but apparently they're changing it to 5 years, so it'll be, I'm fairly certain it'll be 5 years, but it could be 3 years. It's at the discretion of the ministry.
Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so we will move on to approval. Thank you. It's recommended that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Almond Parliament acts as follows. That council receives report P and PLN 2024-45. Johnson Septic Service Limited Environmental Compliance Approval for information and that the senior planner forward a report, a copy of the report PLN 2024-45. Johnson Septic Service Limited Environmental Compliance Approval, ECA, to the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks to address the request for municipal comments for applications to renew the approval of waste disposal sites, ECA number 6882-BZGQEF and ECA number 3885-BZGNRH. Then mover and seconder for this, please. Thank you, Councillor Booth. Thank you, Councillor Ainsworth. Now we have an extra one. Could you just put that on the shelf, please? I did some other one. And can I have that carried, please? Thank you. All right. So now we're on to number 13. Department report, now move on to 14.1. Thank you. Have a mover and seconder for the 5-year. Thank you, Councilor Booth. Thank you, Councilor Ainsworth. Sure, we're all in favor of that. All right, we are now on a 5-minute recess while we get set up for the fire master plan. Thank you. Here we go. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff. We're now into our fire department report and 14.1. It's the fire master plan presented by Bill Mormon of Lima. And
We'll change the name today. It's Terry Gervais. Bill isn't here today, so that's okay, Deputy Mayor. Sorry, we should have changed that with you. So Terry Gervais. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So Council, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to present your municipality's fire master plan. Just a couple things to start off with. We'd like to thank the chief and his staff, the administrative staff and all his officers and firefighters for helping us develop this plan. I have to tell you, everybody was engaged right from the firefighters right up through to the chief. And that's a real advantage when you're trying to develop this strategic plan for a department. Another thing for council to understand, this isn't, and it can be daunting, the size of the report, but it is truly your strategic plan. It's not meant to be done overnight. It's meant to be a long-term vision for you. So as you're moving forward, you're looking at that 5 to 10 year strategic plan to help you make some decisions to keep protecting your community in the event of a fire. So the next slide, please. Next slide. So just a recap from our initial council meeting, just what is the purpose of the fire master plan? So there's a couple of things. First and foremost, we want to make sure you're legislatively compliant. There's a couple of legislation pieces out there you need to be, mainly the Fire Protection and Prevention Act. So we want to make sure that your municipality is compliant. We want to provide a clear picture of your community's current and any anticipated needs that you might have. Recommend some of your strategies for enhancing your public education, your code enforcement and fire suppression services, and be able to provide and guidance for budgeting in the future. So next slide, please. So our approach for both your community risk assessment and the fire master plan, we did our startup meeting with the chief and his staff. We held a lot of stakeholder meetings. We had regular meetings with the firefighters and regular meetings with the chief and his staff as well. Data collection and analysis. We did a lot of collection of data. I'm sure at times the chief and the staff were wondering what we were doing. We just kept asking for more and more data. So, but truly, in order to build a good strategic plan, you need to have a good understanding of where you're at and what you've been doing for the last number of years. So then we developed a draft report. We presented it to the administration staff. We made some changes. We had some conversation and then we presented the final report, which council has it before and filed up today. So, and you can go to the next slide after that. Thank you. So this is just an overview or the table of contents, if you will, of what the fire master plan, what we kind of looked at. We tried to look at all areas of your service, all areas of your community. You know, right from emergency management. We looked at health and safety, of course. We had to look at your bylaws, your agreements that you have currently, prevention. And I'm going to talk a little bit about prevention through the document, but prevention is one of the most important things in order for protecting your community. You do perform water rescue, so the specialized services you do, but we did take a good look at your water rescue services. So we broke that out of kind of the specialized services. Next slide, please. So we base a lot of our recommendations on best practices and legislation, of course, but we do follow the OFM's, the Ontario Fire Marshal's 3 lines of defense, and that's public education, code enforcement, and fire suppression. 25, 30 years ago, all we cared about the fire services was to find the shiny red trucks and the lights and going down for fire suppression. But in reality, we know that in order to protect your residents, it's public education and code enforcement that really does save the lives. The suppression you can never get rid of because there's always going to be a need for them. But we really look at, in this document, you'll see we prioritize the fire prevention and code enforcement piece to help reduce the need for fire suppression. Next slide, please. So you'll see in your document, you have 25 recommendations, and I can tell you, and it's a credit to both council and the fire service. There are many reports we do that we're up to 40 or 50 recommendations. So I want to say to you that 25 recommendation is pretty commendable for both council and the department. In the recommendations, you'll see we've kind of categorized each recommendation. So whether it was mandatory, so is it something that has to be done by legislation, or is it something that we say that you think you should do? Some of it needs council approval, as council knows. Their role is to set policy for the service and for your community, and the department then looks after your operational side. So there is some recommendations that do need council approval. Whether it had a budget impact. So when I say budget impact, it could also be in your ordinary operating budget that you normally pass every year. So it may not increase the budget. It also could be a revenue stream that may help support the budget. And then the time frame. The time frame is our best estimates of when you should do this over the next 5 to 10 years. But as we've seen the last number of years, something changes and everything, the timeframes go out the window. So, you might find the chief, as he's moving through these recommendations, might find he can move one up a little sooner, or something needs to be pushed back. So, but these are kind of recommended timeframes to give you. So bylaws. So bylaws, as I don't have to explain council what bylaws are, they're the policy decisions that are made by you as councillors. So some of the main kind of 3 bylaws that are really set out for the fire service, or that affects the fire service. The main one is establishing and regulating bylaw. And that's really the guiding light of where council says to the fire service and the community, this is the level of service that we're going to provide for you. And this is the expectations the community has. Of course, you have an open air bylaw, which is also pretty important. And in any service level agreement that you have should be passed also in a bylaw. So, the chief wants to make it a service level agreement with another municipality. He needs to bring that to council to get their approval in order to do that. Next slide, please. So the bylaw recommendations are basically housekeeping recommendations. So they should update the establishing regular bylaw to reflect the current risks, needs, and circumstances. The next one says updating it on what levels of service that you provide, specifically what NFPA standards, where the NFPA standards are applicable. And the next one, the bylaw should be updated to provide all services mandated under the Fire Protection and Prevention Act. So what we're basically saying is update the bylaw, make sure it's current with the services that council is approving. It's current with the new standards, that the NFPA standards that are out there, and that it affects anything that's in the prevention and the Protection and Prevention Act. The other thing for bylaws, it's not in the recommendation, but really anytime that a change gets made to the service, it should come back to council and say, council, we're now going to introduce this level of service. Do you approve it? Council say yes, then it updates the bylaw. What happens a lot of time with these bylaws, and even in my years as a fire chief, you get so busy and then you forget about it. So you might start making changes to the service, but you forget that piece of bringing it back to council. And even though council may have approved it, getting back and just kind of doing the paperwork. So fire service agreements. So the act does allow for a number of types of agreements. There's the mutual aid agreement where the department can call another department to come and help them in the event of a shortage for a call when you've utilized all your services. There's automatic aid agreements. An automatic aid agreement is that we make an agreement with another municipality. They will go automatically whenever there's a certain type of call into a certain type of area. And there's fire protection agreements where we might make an agreement for a piece of equipment that we don't have, but another municipality has, or it's a municipality outside your geographical areas of the mutual aid boundary. So I gotta, one of the things that we've seen about with the chief and his team, agreements, and there's a lot of discussion on making more agreements and shared service agreements. So, we didn't have a lot to recommendations in as far as the automatic aid agreements and the mutual aid agreement, which you already have in protection agreements, because there's a lot of good movement in that way. And you should be happy with that. The two recommendations that we did come up with for the fire service, thank you, is with the Alderville First Nations community. So we all know you provide services to the First Nations community. So one of the things that should happen is there actually should be a service level agreement with the community that's brought to council and passed by council to allow for those services. And then the next agreement is working with the band chief and council, your local member of parliament, and the Indigenous and Northern Affairs to try to establish a service level agreement with them that would look at finding some cost recovery. So currently you're providing services to the Alderville First Nations community at a cost of the taxpayers of your municipality. So it's not something that will be easily be done, but what we're recommending is at least get the discussion started and then formalize some agreements, what services you will provide for the community, whether it's in prevention and court enforcement and fire suppression. Next slide, please. So social dynamics and communication. So basically that's just having that open transparency, trust for communicating. It helps retain your staff. It opens up business relationships. So we had two recommendations in this, so that the fire chief should work with council and applicable municipal staff members to develop ways to publicly acknowledge local employers that allow volunteer firefighters to leave their work during emergency response. So it's getting tougher and tougher for communities and tougher for local employers to allow their staff to leave for emergency response. So what we're recommending is try to work on some kind of a system that you can acknowledge those local employers, because you need those volunteer firefighters, especially during working hours or during the day, certainly for major events. And number two is the fire chief should explore ways to improving collaboration and camaraderie in the department. Doing so will help the firefighters continue to have a positive experience working in the service. And I don't want council going away saying they're not doing something, because they are. They're doing a lot of really good stuff. What we're suggesting here is just keep exploring that. It's easy to kind of get busy doing other stuff and forget about the volunteer firefighters, and next thing you know, you're behind the 8 ball. So what we're saying in this one is just keep looking at ways to keep improving communications with them. There's all kinds of mediums out there, that's social media, and there's emails now we can do, but it doesn't work for everybody. So is there town hall meetings that you can do? Is there quarterly meetings? They are doing officer meetings, so that's fantastic. So it's just something to keep on the forefront, is to make sure that every year you keep looking at how best to communicate with your firefighters. Stakeholder engagement sessions. So we did a number of sessions. The council was involved in some of the sessions. We also did a strength, weakness, and opportunities and threat analysis with all the officers and the firefighters. So it really allows us to get a good gauge of on the front line of how, how well they think they're doing, what they think they can improve on, as a fire department, what threats they might see out there and what opportunities there are for them. So the recommendation is this. So in the report, you'll see a very high level on the SWOT analysis. The recommendation is that we take the detailed report, we provide it, and it gets the chief and the officers kind of look at that. And is there things in there that can help improve the level of service based from what the firefighters have said? Next slide. Thank you. So we looked at your emergency management program. Since the chief is the CEMC, so it fell within the scope of the fire master plan. So again, when we looked at the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act that you're bound by, we looked at that to make sure you were compliant, which you are. We did look at the OREG standards. So in the plan, we talked about your program. We looked at your emergency operations centers and kind of looked at what you're doing for emergency preparedness for your community and business continuity. So out of that, we have a number of recommendations for the emergency management program. One of the things that you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. One of the things that we've been noticing across, and even when I was in the service as a municipality, we wanted to make sure we had a primary and alternate EOC, and it cost our municipality and the taxpayers money because they both had to be up and running and both had to have the same stuff, really, in case you had to use it. So one of the things that we were looking at or we're recommending for you is for you to enter in or look at entering into an agreement with the Township of Hamilton to have a backup emergency center at their primary center. So for example, right now your local municipalities around you each have a primary and an alternate. You have a primary and an alternate. Well, if your primary is down, why couldn't you go to another municipality and use their primary? Unless it's widespread, of course, which is, but if it's a localized emergency, so that's one of the things that we think there is some shared services that can be done between the two municipalities, and then do vice versa. So if you can't use your primary, you would go over to the Township of Hamilton's primary. The fire chief should ensure that Alderman Haldeman Emergency Operations Center has the technology and the supplies operate effectively. So, there is some, you've done with the new fire hall. There's a lot of good things in the Emergency Operations Center. It's well staffed with a kitchen and there's good washroom facilities, but the technology is something we should look at. Cell boosters, for example, which is a fairly low cost item that could help with the cell coverage that happens there. Some of that stuff, making sure that everybody that goes, so if the head of council is at the EOC, or that everybody can connect to the printer, for example. So if you have to print off documents, so it's not large cost items, but it's just to make sure if you have to start running out of there for 24, 48, or even longer, can everybody still do their day-to-day business? So. The next one is the fire chief should prepare a report that recommends creating a community operations plan. So one of the things that we're all really good at doing the emergency response plan because it's under the act. One of the things that we don't necessarily do a great job at in most municipalities is a business continuity plan. How do we get our municipality back up and running? How do we get the tax department back up and running so your community can come and pay their taxes? How do you get the roads department back up and running? Your arenas back up and running? If you follow any large emergencies that have went through, like the town of Goderich years ago when the tornado went through, one of the biggest things is getting your community back up and running, getting some of that normalcy. So that's done by business community plan, continuity plan, which each of your areas then look at how to successfully get back into whatever the new norm is going to be, depending on the type of emergency. So The last one is about developing a public education program. The fire department does a great job of public education, and there's certainly always ways we can do more. One of the things is that I think that just doesn't fall on the department, but also on the municipality, is do more with promoting the 72-hour kids, do more than promoting emergency management. We do a great job at Emergency Management Week, same as Fire Prevention Week, but really every community event you should promote the emergency management or the 72-hour kits for your community. So next slide, please. So occupational health and safety, there's nobody in the service and there's nobody in this room that don't value the volunteer firefighters and want to make sure that it's as safe for them in their workplace. So health and safety, we did look at your legislation and best practices. So are you meeting the legislation and the green book, if you will? We looked at your health and safety programs. We looked at your personal protective equipment and your rapid intervention packs. We looked at the diesel exhaust systems, officer development, and your driver training and licensing program. Next slide, please. So the first one talks about wellness. So we all know that in this day and age, not only are all your staff, but your volunteer firefighters that see more. They have all the outside work and family pressures, but then they come and do calls as well. So rather than reacting and work trying to deal with it after, what we're suggesting here is developing wellness programs for them. So wellness programs could be something like promoting good nutrition or smoking cessation programs or whatever the case might be. But it's really, there's great resources in your county, in your community that can sort of help design programs or help you with programs on that. The next one is the fire chiefs should consider incorporating an acting officers program into the structure of the department's existing officer development program. You have a great officer development program. They've been doing a good job of making sure that the officers are compliant with the new legislation or will be compliant with the new legislation. What we believe is the acting officer program, what you're doing is getting the firefighters ready to take that next step. In the old days in the service, when I came into the service, you were a firefighter, then all of a sudden you were a captain or an officer, but nobody trained you to be that role. You just went, and then you started learning. So the acting officer program will allow the chief and his team to start getting these people ready for when they step into those roles. The next one talks about the formalized driver competency program. They've made great strides. They now can do their driving, the driver testing here. So what we're suggesting is take that base of the program you've started and formalize the program so that when somebody gets their DZ license, it just doesn't finish there. It goes into, how to actually run a fire truck and how to work the fire truck at a fire scene, how to drive a tanker truck in an emergency situation. So it's just formalizing the program. They're doing a lot of that stuff now, is just bring it into that policy, into that program, and then it's set for whoever else is moving up. So the last one is the fire chief should review section 3.1 of the firefighter guidance notes and develop a strategy to reduce diesel exhaust. So you've started some of that by putting in the bunker gear rooms in the stations. So section 3.1 is in the health and safety guidance notes for the Ministry of Labor. And it has a whole policy of how to reduce the exposure of diesel exhaust to the firefighters' gear or to them as well. It can go everything right from extraction systems that you clip onto the truck when the truck starts off, it extracts it out, to systems in the fire hall where it gets to a certain level, fans come on. Another system is doing the bunker gear. So what we're suggesting is just review the whole section and set that strategy again. It's this long-term strategy to help this off-gassing of diesel exhaust onto the firefighters' gear, which has been proven to also help prevent cancers with the firefighters. Next slide, please. So fire prevention and public education, the programs that bring the fire safety issues to your forefront. We looked at your community risk assessment, which of course, as everybody knows, Loomis have done. We looked at what you're doing for public education initiatives now, your inspection and compliance programs, investigation, and pre-incident planning. And pre-incident planning is where the firefighters go out and they look at high-risk facilities and they pre-plan them so that if there is a call, they know what materials are stored there. They know where the closest water supply is. They know where to park their trucks when they go there, or they may know it's a building that they can't go inside because of the hazards that are. So, next slide. So just a reminder for council, this is your community risk assessment. You know, severe weather was your number one, but there is, as you start looking at the next ones down, critical infrastructure failure, major role, fire and residential, road higher incidents. So when you're looking at your community risks, one of the things you can do with your prevention programs is start tailoring the programs to some of your risks. So severe weather events is your number one risk for your community. So going back to the emergency management program, it's prudent for you to develop a public education program around severe weather events and an entire program. So that's the concept of using the community risk assessment. Next slide, please. So we have a number of recommendations on the fire prevention and public education program. I think there's 6. Again, it's the number one way to prevent loss of life in fires. So, you know, it's something that all fire services are now putting a greater emphasis than we did 25 or 30 years ago, certainly when I came in the service. So number one is the fire chief should develop a fire prevention program that includes an inspection schedule, a CO alarm program, and a list of public education initiatives to be completed. The fire chief should then submit this policy to council for the consideration and approval. So what we're saying with this policy is take everything that you're doing and put it into a schedule so that you know that every year we're going to do so many inspections of this risk and so many inspections on this risk in year 2. We're going to do smoke alarms every year, and this is how we're going to manage the smoke alarm program. Public education, here's how we're going to manage the public education program. So what we usually did in the fire service is we took the public education, we buried it in the ENR bylaw. The ENR bylaw was all about fire suppression, you know, what service we did. What we're saying or recommending to you is pull that out and put it on the forefront. Make it part of your core services is to provide public education. And you're doing a lot of this now. Let's just formalize it, bring it to council, say to council. And this is just an example. We're going to go to every church every 3 years and do an inspection. We're going to go to every high risk occupancy building every year, if you will. The next one is continuing to utilize social media. As we all know, it is the way of the future. It's here. We all use it. But you know, how do we best use it in delivering our messages? How do we best get to not only our seniors, but our youth in our community? So continue using the social media and look at other ways that you can utilize it. Number 3 is that the fire department begins tracking more information about their public education event. So you go to public education events, they go every year, they do a lot of great job. The firefighters are involved in it. What we're suggesting here is start tracking that. What it'll allow them to do is say, okay, we did this event, we touched 200 and some people, they were of the ages from here to here. So we need to develop a program because we know we talked to 250 people under the age of 19. We need to have a program for those people under the age of 19. So it's just statistics that will help you develop programs and keep developing the programs in the future. Number 4, as you know, if anybody's been touched by fire, this is one of the toughest things for our residents. So we're recommending that the fire chief should incorporate an after fire campaign program. So what does a resident do after the fire? We are a great resource for them. We help them out, and your service is doing that, same as most services across this country. But to hand them a little pamphlet, you know, be able to say to them, call your insurance company, you know, little things like that can make it, you know, call the Red Cross, or we can call the Red Cross, or whatever the case might be. So set up an after the fire campaign that you can hand. One service that I was involved with years ago, we had boxes that we folded up, and cardboard boxes. They were like a banker's box that they could take to the resident and they could get some of their personal effects out of it. So little tricks or little things like that to help your residents after in one of their most devastating times. So the 5th one talks about the community risk assessment. So have a look at it. And I touched briefly on that, and develop your programs based on some of the risks that are in your community. And number 6. Number 6 talks about how to enhance and you know, do more with your smoke alarm program and your public education programs. And one of the things we think you could help out is, so your community has a lot of seasonal residents, so you don't know what public education they're getting when they're outside your community. Then they come into your community, they're in their cabins and their trailers and there's seasonal. So in that summertime window when everybody's really busy, we still need, or you still really need to touch those people and get and educate them in public education. Their dwellings are still dwellings under the act, so you still need to do some of that. So during the summer months, how do you do that when your department is really busy? One of the couple ways that we've looked at that we're recommending is having one of your volunteers, hire them for the summer to do nothing but those seasonal places. I shouldn't say nothing but them, but that would be their priority. Or summer programs, having summer students delivering, canned messaging or door knockers or whatever the case might be out to your community, and try to reach some of those seasonal people in your community that those 3-4 months of the year you're in charge of kind of looking after them. Next slide, please. Thank you. So level of service. Level of service is really, that's getting into what the suppression piece does. So when the trucks go out to a call, it's broken down into two kind of levels. There's the core services. So that's the department's day-to-day stuff. It's the stuff they do every day. That's, going to a medical call, going to a car accident, going to a fire, going to an alarm ringing, going to CO calls. Fire prevention is a core service. Code enforcement is a core service. And then there's the specialized services. So the hazardous materials and vehicle extrication, water rescue, confined trench and high angle rescue. So the key is to decide based on your historical data, which on the specialized services I'm talking about. So what type of calls are you going to? What risks are there in your community and what your community needs? And then decide which specialized services. There's not very many municipalities in the province of Ontario that do all those levels of service. Big cities like Ottawa, big cities like Toronto probably do, but nobody else is doing that. So you really truly got to decide what service do we need. It's an expensive service to be in, and it takes a lot of training to be able to do that. So next slide, please. So what we're recommending here is, and sorry, I should go back in the specialized services, there's 3 kind of levels. There's an awareness level, an operational level, and a technical level. So what this recommendation is saying is the fire chief should create a report that recommends having the department provide specialized services listed in the fire master plan, and you'll see what they're listed. So we looked at your specialized services. We looked at the data that you have and what type of call volume you've had over in some cases up to 10 years, and the needs in your circumstances and the risks. And this is what we're kind of recommending. So vehicle rescue or vehicle extrication, of course, that's a regular thing. That's almost a core service for them. With having a section on the 401, heavy rescue. So truck rescue is important. With your agricultural community, machine rescue is important. Surface water and ice rescue, because of the water and ice that you have, is certainly, and of course, hazardous material. And hazardous material is actually one of the core services to become certified as a firefighter, if you will. It's also one of them. So we recommended the service levels there, and we recommended what FNFPA standards that they have to have by 2028. So it's not anything that you're not doing. It's just making sure that you set the level that you should, and you meet the compliance by 2028. So the other types of rescue, specialized, the trench rescue and confined space, really the department needs to be at the awareness level, which is just basically they get a kind of a brushing over or a high level of what a trench rescue is, and then make agreements with other organizations, whether it be the province or with higher hazardous materials or high angle rescue or trench rescue. You make agreements for that, but you certainly don't need to be in that business. Thank you. So the fire chief should ensure that specialized rescue portion of the training program aligns with the standards. So all this is saying, if you're going to do hazardous materials operation level, and that's council's direction, if they choose to set that level, you got to make sure you're training to that level. You have the right equipment, so council has to support the equipment, and then that you're training to also that levels. Training. So we all know that there's a certification regulation out there that was passed, that in 2026 and 2028 are two major milestones. Certification is here. So the department has been working very hard on setting solutions to make sure that your firefighters are meeting the NFPA certifications for 2026 and 2020. Next slide, please. So a couple of things that in here, and you'll see at the end when I recommend about the future. So the first one is right now the training program is kind of being done with the officers and the administration staff. And with right now, with the pressures that are being put on because of the certification programs and scheduling of the training and making sure that, you know, the lesson plans are up. It's a lot of work. And what we're suggesting in the first one is that the fire chief should continue assigning a dedicated personnel to manage the training program. The dedicated personnel should ensure the program has a consistent structure and facilitate special training sessions about specific skills and services. So it also keeps, it's a retention tool as well too, because the firefighters will come when there's good training planned. The firefighters don't like when they come on a Tuesday night or Wednesday night or Thursday night, whatever the night is, when it's not productive. So that's another good piece. It's also legislative and also a bit of liability that if you're not keeping good records and having good lesson plans. So we're suggesting that you dedicate somebody, change within their roles to be able to do that. The next one talks about looking at ways to do some shared services and training programs to be more cost effective and mutually benefit. Excuse me. There is some. The chief has been working on doing some shared services and some cross training for some of the with the area departments. So we should continue to explore that. Everybody needs to be training. Everybody has expertise and amongst the departments. So keep continuing to explore how to enhance that and find those cost effective and benefit ways. Thanks, Chief. Thank you. Number 3 kind of lines up with my discussion in number 1. Is ensure that training schedule is well organized and advanced and the intended training dates. So there's nothing worse, and I can tell you from being a volunteer firefighter, there was nothing worse than coming to a training and it not being structured, or we were going to do a training on water supply and it turns out the person couldn't be there. So now we're training on ladders or somebody's reading out of a book. So we think with having that dedicated person to help organize some of that, set the schedule up well in advance, you know, as far as advanced as you can. The other thing is that if firefighters can see that their schedule, you know, a month from now is going to be training on water supply, for example, and they really like training on water supply, or they need to be trained, they haven't met their yearly commitment on that, then they may take the night off of work, or they may have somebody else, you know, look after the kids for that night so that they can get there. So life is so busy now, it's important to kind of plan as much as we can in advance. And it's not that the department's not doing that or trying to do that. It's just it's a lot of extra work now on the administrative staff, along with prevention and code enforcement and administrating the department. So water rescue. So we brought water rescue out because you are in the water rescue services, and we do know that you've just purchased a new boat for the service. So what we did in the fire master plan is determine at what level of service you should be in the water rescue, because there is different levels. Even when you have a marine vessel, there's different levels. We looked at classifications and what regulations. So your boat is regulated by Transport Canada. So what training and what regulations do you have to make sure that boat is certified by Transport Canada standards? Standard operating guidelines, what's in place and what you might need for the future, and what collaboration and other agencies you might have. So one of the things in the water rescue, if anybody that was around in the 2021 Northumberland study, was identified in that study that there was a lot of departments that were doing water rescue, but they were doing this solely by themselves. And so they'd have one boat, the boat would go out to perform a rescue, but there would be no backup for that boat that was going out to perform that rescue. So that's a safety factor for the firefighters. So the one of the things we looked at in here and we'd talk about in the recommendation is looking at taking from the 21 study is look at collaborating with other departments so that when your boat goes on the water, somebody else's boat is also going on the water, not only to help with the rescue, to make sure your firefighters are safe or something happens with them. So the first one is the fire department should practice due diligence by having personnel operate the marine vessel, completing a safety course such as the Med A3 certification. So the regulations say you have to have the safety course, and that's a safety course for the fire. So we all, a lot of us run boats, but when you begin into the business of rescuing people, it changes how we operate the boats. So the Med A3 or a similar program talks about how making sure they're wearing their PFDs and that, that kind of stuff. So next slide, or next one is the department should train the firefighters to the NFPA 1006 standard. So that's the standard on the specialized rescue I was talking about by 2028. Excuse me, they'll all have to be certified to that standard. So next slide, please. So developing standard operating guidelines. So making sure that when you have your boat in service and you start with this new boat, you start developing the standard operating guidelines and then do training on a standard operating guidelines. And that'll help provide safety for the people who are operating the boat, but the people that they're trying to rescue. The number 4 is I briefly talked about, having those 2 boats go at once. So the chief has worked out with the chief of Hamilton Township that they will start on Rice Lake running together. So that's a really great move on their part. And it's going to be an important for not only the rescue piece, but like I said, the firefighter safety. So what we're suggesting in the report is to formalize that agreement and bring it to council for its approval. Next slide, please. So performance standards and response statistics. So there's a number of things in there but one of the things that I'd want to key on is the effective response force. So what that means is basically is making sure that whatever type of call you have the right number of firefighters on that location to help mitigate that. So whether it's your own firefighters, whether it's automatic gate agreements, or whether it's your mutual aid that you bring in these firefighters, but to make sure that you're putting those 14 or 15 people on location in order to mitigate the circumstances. So how we started looking at for your performance standards is we did a lot of benchmarking on your previous. So we looked at how many people you've been putting on scene. We looked at a 5-year window. We looked at response times. We looked at your travel time, your shoot time, which means how fast are the firefighters getting out of the station. Travel time's hard to you can't change travel time. It is what it is. If from point A to point B is so many kilometers, it's nothing you can do about it, right? So we looked at that and we tried to establish or recommend some standards of where your community should be at. And that's a standard that could come to council and say, okay, council, here's what this level of service we can provide to our community. Here's the number of people, 90% of the time that we could put on in this time. And then you can build on that baseline if so. Number 1 talks about next slide, please. Number 1 talks about making sure that you have the right number of certified people at dollar loss fires to form that effective response force. So that the department is working towards making sure that people are certified. So that it's great to have 15 people, but if you were going to do a certain type of tactic there, like interior, they need to have a certain certification to be able to do that. So the department's working towards that way. The recommendation is to keep working towards that. So, and then the second part of that is the fire chief should develop a response standard that aligns with the department's needs and submit it to standard to council for their consideration. The next one is the fire chief should continue monitoring the department's effective response force to determine whether the department needs to increase its staffing levels, particularly during regular business hours. So once you set your baseline and you look at your stats on a regular basis. So during this time of window, from Monday to Friday, from this time to this time, how many people do we put on to a property fire? And that's your highest risk fires when you have property fires. From this time to this time, or this time, what happens on the weekends? Because by looking at those stats, then you can start making decisions. Do I need to introduce daytime staffing down the road? Do I need to have, there are some departments that have people on call or standby on weekends, on long weekends, to make sure that you have that minimum number of people. So, but to start it is you need to look at the stats. You need to kind of monitor your stats. The next one is, next slide, please. Thank you. The department should continue updating its operating to incorporate shared services recommended in the 2021 Northumberland Mutual Fire Services review where applicable. So again, going back to that original study and look at some of the possible shared services that can help with your suppression forces. So. Number 4 is the fire chief continue to work with neighboring fire departments to standardize the applicable procedures, training, equipment, and safety protocols. So it's great to have the agreement, but also you want to say, okay, look, why don't you come over and train with us this week? So that we can train together because we're going to go to a call together. You've got your SOP, I've got my SOP or standard operating procedure or guideline. Let's look at see if they can be merged together so they're both. So what that means is when the firefighters get on location, they're all doing the same thing. You know, they're talking the same language, they're kind of headed in the same direction. When the chief gets on scene, or if it was the chief of another municipality gets on scene, you know, they know exactly what your team is going to do or what their expectations that they can do. So number 5 talks about the chief conducting an annual review of department's effective response force, the statistics, the response time objectives, and review any gaps of the department's level of service. And the fire chief should recommend applicable updates to the department's operation as needed for council's consideration and approval. One of the things that we do in the service, and when I was a fire chief, I may have been guilty of this too. Again, we get so busy. Next thing you know, we notice there's a gap, but the gap may have been starting to kind of slowly creep up. And now I'm going to council saying, wow, we have this big gap and we got to do this in order to close this big gap. By doing this, if you do this on an annual basis or a regular basis, you can come back to council and say, we've got a tiny gap here. We'd like to fix this gap. So next year, it's not as big a gap, or 2 years from now, or 5 years from now. So, and if you remember, this is a strategic plan, and that's what this is meant to design for us. Next slide, fire stations. So we both in the community risk assessment and for the fire master plan, the chief and the staff were very gracious, and they spent hours driving us all over your community. And we spent a lot of time looking at your stations and your fire stations, and certainly council needs to be commended for supporting in not only the new station Roseneath, but the stations, the other stations spending and investing in those stations to make sure that they're going to last you, because it's very costly to build a new station, as you know. So the stations, there's a good strategic plan moving forward to try to, you know, make them better, and I think that part's really important. So number 1 just talks about that. Next slide, please. Just talks about that as council just supporting the maintenance funding and upgrading of the station as required. Again, the stations, we believe the stations are in a good location. So if one of the stations, you know, builds out its life cycle, now the amount of money to replace that station is a lot. So if you do that, it looks like your home. If you do a little bit, you paint a little bit every year, you change some fixtures every year, you know, you're not replacing your home. And so that's what that first one is talking about. Number 2 is that the fire chiefs continue to ensure that all the upgrades of the department's fire stations apply with the AODA Act, which we all know is legislation and needs to be done by 2025. So again, just continuing with the maintenance, just continuing to support the chief and what he wants to do with that, and making sure that everything you're doing is going to meet AODA as well. So water supply, when we looked at the water supply for your community, there's two systems, of course. There's the municipal water supply, the hydrant protected area, and then there's non-hydrant protected area. And we did also look at the fire underwriters survey grading and the superior tanker shuttle program. So in the water supply section, next slide, please. Both of these are strategic studies or strategic recommendations. So the first one is what we found is in your hydrant protected area, you have a lot of dead end loops, and where water, if you need a large amount of water, did it? Okay. Didn't know you had a helicopter pad here. So in the hydrant, in your hydrant protected area, and it's just the infrastructure, the way it's been for years. And so one of the things that we're recommending is you do a study on your distribution system that looks at your water supply system and again, recommends future upgrades to the system. Or if a new subdivision is going to go in, how do you make sure that you don't have dead ends, but your water systems are looped? But what we're also recommending in that first bullet is to expand it to your non-hydrant areas. So strategically, where would you want to put water supply to serve your non-hydrant, your rural residents? So yes, there's lots of water around, but lots of times you can't get to that water. So where should you put dry hydrants in, or underground storage tanks, or wherever the case might be? Again, building a strategic plan, and you can say, you know, council will support 1 dry hydrant a year, 2 dry hydrants a year, for example. We know where they're going to go. Strategically, we're going to put one here, and we're going to put one over there. So, and the next one is the fire chief should conduct a study that assesses the cost and the requirements needed to obtain the dwelling protection grading for the fire enterprise survey. So again, that goes into your water supply, that goes into your training, that goes into your vehicles, goes into some equipment, but just make that assessment and that study to allow you to plan again for the future for water supply. As we all know, we need water to put out the fires. So asset management. We looked at equipment, and we also looked at your fire apparatus fleet. We also looked at the fleet renewal program that the chief has presented to council. We also looked at your radio communications as well. Next slide, please. So we did look at your current fire fleet, the types of responses you're doing, what staffing levels, and you may wonder why, you know, what the staffing levels has to do, but, you know, sometimes we need to buy, you know, fire fleet that makes sure that we can put enough people on the trucks. It's great to have 3 trucks in the station, but they only have 2 seats in what's, it's only 6 people. So what right vehicles do you need in those stations to transport the firefighters to location? Apparatus licensing and certifications, the age of the vehicle for insurance and grading purposes. So next slide, please. So council has seen this before. This is what Chief Dawson had provided us on your fleet replacement program. So, you know, he's got a really good program and going forward. And I think council, with council support, this program is going to do well to keep council and the municipality with the right fire fleet. In the recommendations, next slide, please. The fire chief should continue to develop an asset replacement program for the department's equipment. So we're basically saying what you did with your fire apparatus, now do it with the rest of the equipment, because it's all expensive these days. You know, bunker gear is expensive. You have to place it every 10 years. Breathing apparatus is expensive. Jaws of life are expensive. So take what you've done with the vehicles and then start to do the rest of your equipment to be able to provide council with a forecast that in breathing apparatus, it's going to be, because it does have an end of life cycle date as well. You've bought new ones in the last very recently, but in another 10 years, I just picked a number, another 10 years, you may have to replace. So do you have to start putting more money away in reserve accounts? Or at least it gives you that idea that we know that in 2034 that this piece of equipment has to be changed out. So the next one, the fire chief continue to refine and formalize equipment maintenance program for the department. The plan should provide the department with a strategy to ensuring all its equipment reaches its intended life cycle. So similar to the buildings, continue to formalize that life cycle program, that maintenance program. You want that piece of equipment to be able to last as long as it can within its useful life or within legislation. So by doing maintenance, that's going to help you get to that. If you don't do regular maintenance on equipment then it shortens the life cycle, and then you're back buying a brand new piece. So they're doing a lot of it. Just formalize it, get the records so that you have your records, you know, and include things like batteries on the trucks and tires on the trucks and that kind of idea. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. I'm staring at it going. This is the last one, sorry. The fire chief prepare a report that recommends upgrading the department's radio communications infrastructure and equipment. Fire chief should then submit the report to council's consideration and approval. If council approves the plan, the council and the fire chief should work with Northumberland County to ensure the department's radio system provides 100% coverage in your community. So one of the things that come out in the SWOT analysis, and one of the things in our engagement sessions with the management team, was the radio system and the challenges of having good communications within your community. We are well aware from the original study that there was a Northumberland County study and a movement with Northumberland County of all the fire departments going together. I'm not sure where that's at right now, but one of the things that we have found through our legwork is that it's not at where it needs to be to provide the safety for the firefighters. So radio communications is so important. Whether it's if a firefighter gets in trouble or they need to report to bring on another vehicle or at another station to report their smoke showing, or it's not a fire or downgrading people. But the study and so that study was in 21. I know the county study or the county program was involved years before, but it's something that both council and the chief should continue to work hard at to protect their firefighters. So, and whether that's pushing and continue to push on the county system or looking at other alternatives, then that's something that's going to have to be done. And that's the reason for that one. Conclusions. Your successes. So the department is acting proactively to deliver the council approved service and protect the safety of its firefighters. So kudos to the department staff, and kudos is providing good support to the department. Kudos to council, because they can't do that if council doesn't support it. And especially in these challenging times that both council and the department has. The department has implemented shared service agreements with neighboring departments, and that's a very positive. The department exploring ways to work with other agencies to deliver public education, complete code enforcement duties, and to reform equipment maintenance and tests. Some of the future. So the department should continue increasing the number of qualified or certified firefighters in the stations. It's challenging. It's challenging right across this country for the volunteer service, but you got to keep working at it and look at different ideas of how to do that. The department should continue enhancing its training program, specifically looking at adding a dedicated training officer at ranks. One of the considerations would be bringing somebody in part-time and strategically down the road, maybe transition it to a full-time position. The department could also look at sharing a training officer with another municipality that may be able to reduce some of the costs as well. But training, as we talked about in the training section, how important it is and the challenges and the workload that is now. So there's got to be something that kind of helps support that part of the program. And the department should continue supporting its volunteer firefighters. Next slide. So this is the daytime staffing strategic initiative. So we know that a new staffing pilot project has started in 2024, where 2 off-duty volunteers, on-duty volunteers work from 9 to 3 on Mondays to Friday. While they're on duty, they are going to look at daytime responses and bylaw services, public education, and facility and equipment maintenance. So the staffing model should help alleviate some of the workload placed on volunteers. One of the things to remember, volunteers, yes, they go to calls, and yes, they do prevention, and yes, they go to training, but the department still has to do all the stuff that's legislated. They still have to check equipment. They still have to do take trucks to the garage or the pump tests, get pump tests done. So the daytime staffing model, which has been used successfully in your area, but it's actually, to be quite honest with you, being used a lot across the province, and a lot of departments that are looking toward that to help relieve some of that pressure. So this staffing model should help the township avoid costs associated with hiring full-time firefighters in the future. So it's just, I raised that. I know it's a pilot project, and I know the chief's going on in it, but I'm raising it just so council is aware that, as more and more pressures get on the volunteers, this may be a way to kind of not take that big giant leap, but to relieve some of the day-to-day pressure of the volunteers. So they just have to do the calls, they just have to know their training, and they have to do they come to their public education events, and the peripheral stuff is now done. And then the bonus side of that is it helps with your daytime staffing too. It's a low-cost way of helping with daytime staffing. Next slide. So with that, Deputy Mayor, that was my presentation, and certainly open to any and all questions that council may have.
Through you, Chair, Terry, thank you very much for all the work that you guys did. Project, starting with the community risk assessment, just into the past fire plan. This has almost been a year-long project. It is, my fault. Sorry, I'll start again, so I'm on the mic. Terry, thank you to you and Lumex for doing this project for us. It started almost a year ago, starting with our our community risk assessment, and then moving into our master fire plan. It involves a ton of information, as you can tell from the last hour presentation, that it is certainly a very intrusive look at the fire department that is provided here to this township. And I'm excited because it gives us a map to follow for the future, and at least take a few of the recommendations each year and try to accomplish them. That hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years, we're able to say that, yes, we followed this document, and in 10 years time, because it is a 10-year document, depending on what we might encompass in the world. However, in 10 years, then the department of the township would be set up to repeat this, to then point them into the next 10 years. So Terry, thank you, and thank you to Lumex for all your work.
Wow. Very informative and really in depth of the goal. To put my mic on. So thank you again. Does council have anything they would like to add? Well, go ahead, Councillor Booth.
Just Terry, to reiterate what everybody said, it was actually a report that I enjoyed reading for once, and it was very informative. So thank you very much. It gives us a good insight on the fire department.
Go ahead, Councillor Ainsworth.
To you, Deputy Mayor. I guess for me personally, I'd like to see somewhere down the road where we look at, you know, and I know it's probably a big hill to climb, is city versus rural. And when it comes to the NFPA. So I don't know if there's any kind of that protest being started, or if it's even kind of in the that whole realm of how everything goes and what we're expected to do as a municipality and the cost of it all. So you know, if there's any, I guess it's just something I'd like to see, if that's all possible. Because we have 3 great fire stations. We got great guys. Dave's doing a great job and has done a great job since he stepped into that spot. And it's probably why we have only 25 recommendations there. It's because of Dave and his staff and group that's kept that going and getting it in order. So, but that's only my concern, is that we have some kind of a dialogue versus city versus rural.
Thank you, Terry. I guess over to you, Dave, as well, with the 25 recommendations. It was kind of nice to know that we're in the low. And when you bring these numbers in, I thought that was quite a bit. But anyway, I guess the only comment I have, and that goes to page 77, and it has to do with the implementation of a multi-year wellness program. I know that's always been very important to me. And can I put you on the spot, Dave? Is there anything there that I see that we are not approving it. So I'm just wondering where that would be.
So the wellness program, it is a citing within NSPA, and it does identify what we call JPRs, which is job performance requirements that the fire department can meet to achieve these different benchmarks identified within the report. I didn't say that to give you a political answer and to throw a bunch of numbers at you, but yes, it is something that we're looking at. We have one gentleman that's certified within, I believe it's Resilient Minds, KML Health Association. He's currently going through his recruitment with OPP right now, and he'll be back to help us deliver. And I know that he is active on weekends taking care of some of our personnel. That has to do with the mental health aspect of it. The physical health part of it is a constant challenge, not just with volunteer departments, but part-time and full-time as well. It's kind of like you have to meet some benchmarks to get on the fire service, but then donuts and coffee are prudent for the remainder. However,
Maybe,
that is definitely something that we're looking at. And further to that, with regards to our rehab kits that we have on our units when we are actually at working events, different types of health food is looked at as opposed to a McDonald's run or a Tim Hortons run.
that's good to know. I would think donuts and any of that stuff might could be replaced with carrots and celery. Thank
And,
you.
Just a question, Madam Chair, but was that part of your past?
No, no, being health issues have stopped me from going into those locations. Thank you. So any other comments? Go ahead, Councillor O'Neill.
Just that this is a very helpful document. It clearly lines out or outlines our responsibilities as a council, and where we're doing well and what to expect to be coming over the next 5 to 10 years. So that's very helpful. I think the most interesting thing for me personally, I'd already read that 2021 report, so and then this report, but it really jumped out at me that we have 1,117 seasonal residents and the implications of that, and something I will definitely be thinking more about. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Can't use the one on the shelf, or use this one. All right. It's recommended that the council of the township of Alma-Calderman enacts as follows, that the township of Alma-Calderman fire master plan be adopted. Could I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Ainsworth. Thanks you, Councillor O'Neill. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you again, Terry.
Thanks, Terry.
So we'll move on to 15.1. And that is the sole source purchase regulatory and warning sign inspections and database update. Do we have someone that will be taking us through this report? Thank you, sir, Mr. Dawson.
So this is a regulatory purchasing requirement for the Public Works Department. And when I had staff look at what our opportunities and options were, this company had come back with a multi-year service agreement recommendation that would actually save the township a few $1,000s. And so it's appropriate that we bring it to council for approval.
Thank you. Any discussion? Anybody have any comments? We'll just wait a few minutes. It's recommended that the council of the corporation, the township of Alma-Calderman enacts as follows, that council receives report PW-2024-01, sole source purchase regulatory and warning sign inspections and database update for information, and that council authorize the sole source purchase of the regulatory and warning sign inspections and database update from Advantage Data Collection, and that council authorize the 5-year service agreement at a reduced cost of $7,425 plus HST. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Booth. Thank you, Councillor Ainsworth. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Parks and Recreation Departments, no reports coming forward. Treasury Department reports. Administrative reports. Now we'll jump into 18.1. And it is the Public Works Manager. And it is the report in front of us. I'll turn it over to Aaron. Thank you.
Good morning, council. This is just a report to make you aware that we would like to split the position of Public Works Manager and Parks and Rec Manager to individual managers instead of having the hybrid position. As we can see, it was something that we feel very strongly about, that Public Works needs a manager on their own. And then in future, we will look at the Parks and Rec once the org review comes back.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions? Or I'll get it on the floor first. Could I have a mover and seconder for this report, please? Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Thank you, Councillor Ainsworth. Any discussion? The motion will be that council receives a report HR 2024-02, Public Works Manager for information, and that the current Public Works Parks and Recreation Manager be separated into separate positions, Public Works Manager and Park and Recreation Manager. We have another mover and seconder for that, please. Are we good? Any more discussion? Go ahead.
Through you,
Councillor Booth.
your worship, to Aaron, I'm just looking to combine this one and the next one. So when are we really looking at these postings are going to be coming up? This one and the treasurer.
We'll be out this afternoon.
Okay, and then how long do they, are we looking for them to be out? Okay, thank you.
Did you have something to add for that? Good. Thank you. All in favor? That'll be carried. So now we go on to 18.3, the classic car show.
So we're still at 18.2 for the treasurer's position.
Oh, I forgot that. Oh, all right, let's go on to the treasurer position. That that council receives report HR 2024-03, treasurer position for information, and that the treasurer position repositioned from salary band 9 to a salary band 8. We have a mover and seconder to get it on the floor, please. Thank you, Councillor Ainsworth. Thank you, Councillor Booth. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? That'll be carried. Now we'll move on to 18.3, classics in the country car show. Emily, would you like to talk about that? Do you have anything to add to the report?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, no, I have nothing to add to the report, but happy to answer any questions.
I just have one, and I tried to find the date of this, and I'm not sure if I missed it.
So the event is scheduled for June 9th of 2024.
Did I miss it in the report?
I could have missed it.
Well, never mind. Somewhere. And when is it? June?
June 9th, 2024.
Thank you. It's recommended that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Alma-Calderman enacts as follows. That council receives report CLK 2024-14, Classics in the Country Car Show for information, and that the special event permit application for 2024 Classics in the Country Car Show be approved, and that staff issue the permit to the applicants. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Booth. Thank you, Councillor Ainsworth. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That'll be carried. Moving on to 18.4. This is the appointment of the deputy CBO. Is there any anybody that would like to add anything for that, or just continue on? Thank you. It's recommended that the Council of the Corporation, the Township of Alma-Calderman enacts as follows. That council receives report CLK 2024-15, appointing Deputy Chief Building Official for information, and that a bylaw be brought forward for consideration to appoint a Deputy Chief Building Official. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Thank you, Counselor Ainsworth. Thank you, Counselor Booth. Any discussion? Go ahead, Counselor Ainsworth.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I'm just kind of, I wondered if this is like a call-in basis, someone or like a, that's what it is, so, okay. So,
So
go ahead.
through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
So this is on an on-call as needed. That's it.
So he, this, Ken has all the
We
criteria,
will refrain from using names.
sorry. So he, he has all the criteria for the CBO position?
So I cannot answer that to you. This identification is for the need of the position.
Mhm.
Has nothing to do with the individual.
Okay,
Any individuals that we may find for this position would meet a minimum criteria.
gotcha. Thank you.
Go ahead, Counselor Booth.
Through your worship, I'm just wondering, can either the clerk or the CAO remind me how much money did we budget for this? Was it $10,000 for, I know we had a budget line in there for contract work for building. I can't.
So there was an item for contracted services. I do believe that more discussion will be coming in close.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor with that? Thank you. That'll be carried. And we'll move on to 19.1, motion to receive committee reports.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, we did have a addendum added to the agenda there for 18.5 for advisory committee recruitment.
Thank you. So we'll just back up to 18.5. Advisory committee recruitment. Does anyone have anything to add to that? Any staff members? Thank you. It's recommended that the council of the corporation of the township of Almac-Haldeman enacts as follows, that council receives report CLK 2024-16 advisory committee recruitment for information, and that staff continue to recruit for the Heritage, Almac-Haldeman and Grafton Communal Water Committees, and bring forward to council volunteer applications when available and until all vacancies have been filled. Can I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Booth. Thank you, Councillor Ainsworth. Any discussion? All in favor? That'll be carried. Now we will move on to committee reports. It is recommended that the council of the corporation, the township of Almac-Haldeman enacts as follows. That agenda item 19.2 on May 28, 2024 municipal planning regular meeting agenda be received for information. Could I have a first and second for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Booth. Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor O'Neill.
I'm just looking at, there's two in here that say original recommendation, and that's different than a recommendation. Does that mean these have already been approved by us?
Can I get clarification for that?
I'm just going to pull them up. It'll just be a moment here.
Getting into 19.1.
I'm looking at page 271.
271.
Sorry, Yolanda, can you speak to the original recommendation titles in there on the minutes?
That point two where it says original recommendation.
Yeah, 9.1 and 9.2, yes.
All right, just stealing the microphone. Okay, so for the water committee, meeting minutes, items 9.1 and 9.2, those were the original recommendations as written on the agenda for approval. However, the committee had determined that they were going to approve both budgets at the same time into one motion, which down below 9.2, you'll see that the budget to actual for financials under items 9.1 and 9.2 were received and filed.
Does that answer your question, Councillor O'Neill?
Yeah, it's just that I had been anticipating if it said recommendation, it was coming to us, so
okay.
I was just
All right.
clarifying.
Okay, could we've had a first and second for that? All in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you. Now we're on to 20.1, motion to receive communications. And the ones that are here, it's recommended that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Alma-Calderman enacts as follows. That agenda items 20.2 to 20.6 on the May 28th municipal regular planning meeting be received for information. We'll have a mover and seconder to get it on the floor. Thank you, Councillor Ainsworth. I need a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Booth. Is there any one of these that you would like to bring forward? Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Booth.
Through you, your worship, item 20.6, St. Mary's Catholic Elementary School, Grafton. I guess just a question is, I know about that one because I've done that before. Can you recall, Emily, how many community grants we do? Is it 3 in total for schools?
That I'm unaware of at this point.
That was a question I had because I was thinking we do it for one, we should do it for all 3.
I think we do, because in past councils, they've asked for councillors or the mayor to each of us to go there and present the award. And I know usually I go to that one, but John or the mayor did last year. The reason being is I'm just wondering if council would entertain the idea that we increase the amount from $50 to $100 now. I think it's been $50 for quite a long time, and $50 now barely buys you something at McDonald's. So I'm wondering if council would entertain the idea of it be increased to $100 for the community award. And it would be plus the $31. So if you're looking at roughly $150, and I believe it's times 3, I think it's a valuable thing. I mean, the kids I know at the graduation look forward to that award, and I know it makes me as a counselor when I go proud that the township is sponsoring a community award for the kids.
Would you like to make a motion that happen?
Sure, I'd
Or
like
shall we
to.
split this in 2 first.
So let's deal with the motion to receive all of the communications first. So we'll call a vote on that one, and then we can go through and come back to this one, Councillor Booth.
Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Oh, we've done that.
Yep.
Okay. Councillor Ainsworth?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I want to talk a bit about the.
Okay, we're going to talk about the
Sorry,
first one.
we'll just get to call the vote here first on the motion to receive for information. So
Okay,
we've
so
got
we're
move, second it, and then
all in favor? All right, now let's go on to the first one is 20.6.
yes, so we'll come back to Councillor Booth's motion to support and increase the award amount to $100.
You'd like to make that motion?
Yes.
Thank you. Could I have, so you're going to move, and thank you, Councillor Ainsworth, you're going to second it?
Yeah.
Any more discussion on that? Go ahead, Councillor Neil.
I'm not going to argue because I do agree with all of your reasoning and logic. I will note, though, that it is one of only 2 awards that are given out there that have a financial thing associated with them. All the others, you just get your name on a plaque.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking. I'm not quite sure. I've never attended any of the other ones. I know there is one for Roseneath, I believe, isn't there?
Yeah, no, I'm meaning all of the other awards given out to the graduating students.
Oh, but there are some. I know the Legion is a financial award and it's actually bigger, I think. But-
Okay, so maybe we can get clarification.
I'm willing to support it as is, but it is one of the few that has financial.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm just wondering if maybe Emily, you could get back to us. It could even be just an email or something, just to, I guess I should have made sure, but I think it's 3. But I hope you don't come back and say it's 15 schools that we support.
Well,
but
we
it's-
only have 3
Yeah.
public schools.
So this motion here will just deal specifically with the one for St. Mary's for today, and then I can look into that and bring it back to
Okay,
coordinators.
thank you.
Okay, all in favor on that one? Thank you. Now, do we have another one that we want to talk about? Go ahead, Councillor Ainsworth.
To you, Deputy Mayor. It's the official plan amendment coming up here in June for the county. That's going to involve our municipality and most of the municipalities in the county. I would hope that we would have some kind of dialogue on this official plan, if there's any changes that we have to do. And I know we've had issues with surveys not being done because of property designated something that can't be used for. And I think in the official plan, we need an avenue to be able to go out and assess these properties when they come to us as council or come to our planning official, that we can say, yes, this can be redesignated and not have to fight this official plan every time that happens.
So I could add to this, we, Councillor O'Neill, myself and the mayor were at the county building Thursday night. And this was specifically for settlement areas where the official plan is projecting the settlements and the increase and where they are going to be. The next one, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor O'Neill, I believe it's in June. And that is the one that's going to be looking at the agricultural lands and that specific areas there. So that's coming up, and that might be a good one for you to attend. Or for all of us to attend.
But in general, we should have an avenue for all our settlements. It shouldn't be just edged in stone because something's gonna pop up where we didn't recognize, or it never got looked at, or it got missed. So I would just hope that somewhere in this new official plan, because we'll have to change ours, that we have avenues to change these things, these issues that pop up, that they're just not edged in stone and we don't have a say.
Well, we'll have her say the next one will be, I believe it's saying June 5th at 1 p.m. Oh, that's a economic development, tourism planning committee. But I'm not sure. Go ahead, Councillor O'Neill. I'm not sure when that other one is.
I believe you are correct on that, that economic development includes agriculture since it is the largest business in this area. When we attended the public meeting, I want to make note that there was a large attendance from Grafton. There were 2 pieces of property identified, one at the east and one at the west. And it was the one at the west that is sitting before us in this agenda package that had representatives from both sides, people who wanted to see it developed, and then several who did not want to see it developed. So it is definitely a controversial issue. And as I note, I would say almost half of the people in the room were there about this development or proposal of rezoning.
And the only thing I would add to that was that the staff were taken by surprise by the amount of people that attended the meeting, because it was standing room only. And
there were people in the hallway.
yeah, so that it's a hot topic, and they are working on it, and they are well aware of the certain properties here that we're monitoring as well. Is there another one that we want to speak about? Go ahead, Councillor Neil.
20.5, the Roseneath Women's Institute and their request to hold an event for the benefit of seniors within the municipality. So I think this is a good use of our community space to provide an event through the Roseneath Women's Institute to our seniors.
Do we know how much the fee is for the afternoon? I guess it's a moot point. Thank you. Okay, so
Yeah.
go ahead.
Sorry, last year it was responded to as part of programming. So this is yet another example of that muddy area where we don't have a clear enough criteria on what these things are.
So would you like to make a motion that we support their request?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Booth. All in favor? Oh, did you have a question, Councillor Rain?
I just have a comment. Although I agree with this, I would suggest that we also send notice that this needs to come to budget, like all the other ones do. They know ahead of time.
If this is something that they're going to be doing yearly, we could bring that to their attention. Thank you. All in favor of that? Thank you. I don't believe there's any more discussion on that, so all in favor of receiving these reports? Thank you. Move on to 21.1. And this is, oh, well, we did that one. I guess we're doing it again. These are the bylaws. To adopt a deputy chief building official, it is recommended that the council of the corporation of the township of Almac-Haldeman enacts as follows: that bylaw number 40-2024, being a bylaw to appoint a deputy chief building official, be given a first, second, and third reading, and finally pass this 28th day of May 2024. May I have a first and seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Ainsworth. Thank you, Councillor Booth. Any more discussion on this? All in favor? Carried. So now I don't see any announcements. We're getting ready for the closed session. And I'm wondering if this is a time to take maybe a 20-minute break, or what are you expecting here?
So we can get the motion to move into closed session, and then there'll be that natural break before calling it.
Oh,
to
okay,
order.
thank you. Need a motion to move into a closed session. It is recommended that the council of the corporation, the township of Almac-Haldeman, enacts as follows: that the municipal planning regular council meeting of May 28, 2024, move into a closed session under Municipal Act Section 239 2B, personal matters about identifiable individual, including municipal or local board members, labor relations or employee negotiations, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on or on behalf of the municipality or local board regarding the advisory committee recruitment, staffing, MOU for use of municipal property. May I have a mover and seconder for this, please? Thank you, Councillor Booth. I see your hand up, Councillor O'Neill. Thank
Sorry,
you.
I'm waiting.
All in favor? Thank you.